Testing, testing, testing. I will be taking a statement from Mr. Anthony J. Wirmusky, W-I-R-M-U-S-K-Y, 12 Walnut Street, Hoosick Falls, New York. Okay, now let's go ahead.
Okay, but just what you were saying, testing is correct.
Let's just see if you can hear you. That's all I want to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what during World War II you served with the 105th Infantry? Is that correct?
Headquarters Detachment,
All right.
1st Battalion, 105th Infantry. Yes.
All right. When did you join Headquarters Detachment?
September 30th, 1940. That's when I joined. That'll be 58 years ago next week.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and so you were among those that went to Fort McClellan.
I'll give you the scenario.
Okay.
We were mobilized. I was in the Guard 2 weeks. We were mobilized October 15th, 1940. October 23rd, that is, we were federalized. And October 23rd, we physically left Hoosick Falls by bus from here to the train station in Troy, New York. There a train was coming from Plattsburgh, picked up units in Saranac, Malone, Glens Falls, Whitehall. I'm not sure of the sequence, but anyway, then from there we went to Albany, and from Albany we headed south and landed in Fort McClellan 2 days later.
You went by train?
Train, yeah.
Train from Albany?
Yep. Train, well, Troy, and then...
Albany, Troy. Could you tell me what it was like when you first got to Fort McClellan? Could you describe the conditions, what it looked like?
Yes, very, very vividly. First of all, you got to understand, I was only in service 3 weeks. So I had no idea of soldiering. My idea was to join. This was before the draft was initiated. I joined for a year. I signed up for a year, so that when I got to Fort McClellan, it was an old infantry base, and we were not at the base itself. We were put out in the field. Out in the field where the trees, probably wrist size or maybe a little bit bigger, had all been leveled, and platforms had been set up, and we put our tents up on the streets, well, regular streets. Anyway, when we went to fall out in formation, there were stumps and stones in the street, so one of the first things we had to do after we got our tents up was to get the street so that you could line up, you know, in some fashion. One of the interesting things about that was there was a gully at the end of the street, and at the end of the gully was the latrines. Well, after we were there maybe a week or two, it became quite evident that most of the guys weren't using that gully to go across the latrines. They were evacuating outside of the tents. So instructions come down that garbage cans were put in the center of the streets, and the last men out of the tent in the morning, the last 2 men out in formation, carried those piss cans over the gully. And I've never seen cans so full as I did at that time.
So, the first mission was to sort of set up your living quarters,
yep,
and get ready. And how did you? Where did you take your food?
Oh, we ate with D Company. We only had 23 men, so that we were assigned to mess with D Company. And the thing was laid out in rectangular, so headquarters we were detached as the head of the street, and then the A Company, B and C and D. But there, A and B I think were here, C and D were here, so that we were closest to D. That's the reason that we ate with D Company.
And you ate outside?
Oh yes.
Yeah. Now, what could you describe generally what kind of weapons, I mean, you had when you first got to Fort McClellan? I mean.
Yeah, the old Springfield rifles.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't get the M1 rifle until, well, sometime in '41. I don't remember exactly when we got it. But no, the interesting thing, when we left Hoosick Falls, we had wrapped leggings. World War II, World War I, wrapped leggings.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the first issues that we got down there was canvas leggings, which was a godsend.
Yeah. Okay. And how about heavy weapons? Machine guns, mortars.
Well, our company didn't have them. We were a communications unit.
Right.
The D company, Dog Company, was a heavy weapons company. They had mortars and light and heavy machine. No, they didn't have a 50 caliber. They had water cooled. They had water cooled and the ordinary. I don't remember the name, the model of it. But that was D Company. Dog Company was the heavy weapons company.
Yeah. Okay. But I had someone tell me that a lot of them were wooden. The mortars were wooden and. At the beginning.
I've heard that story. Where we were, we brought our own weapons. You know, from Hoosick Falls, we had Springfield. Now, where those dummy weapons come up is in the summer of '41. We went to the Tennessee maneuvers, and that's where those wooden weapons were. We never. Our unit had the weapons. Well, they were World War I weapons, but the wooden weapons that we wrote, that were written about, talked about, were first showed up in the maneuvers.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I saw them.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So then. Once you got your tents built in the streets, then there was basic training in the field, marches and what have you, drills and all of the normal kind of stuff that you do when you're on military duty.
Yeah, well, one of the things, some of the impressions, got to remember, I wasn't a soldier there yet. I was only in a month, you know.
Yeah.
I had trouble with the first sergeant because I knew him, and I'd say, "Okay, Walt." He said, "Sir, you know, Wirmusky, you're in the Army now. You do what you're told." Well, so anyway, one of my first impressions was what I learned was Onward Christian Soldiers was Sunday. The band come down the street playing Onward Christian Soldiers, and we all wound up to go to church. We got to the end of the company, the regimental area. The Protestants went one way, and the Catholics went another way. So and the band went straight. I don't know where the other
where they went there.
Where the other people went.
Yeah.
But then we started. That same band marches out in the morning. We had to do 5 miles a day as part of basic training. So they used to march us out 2.5 miles in the morning and 2.5 miles back at the end of the day. And the band would pick us up outside of the regimental area. They would march us out to the end of the cantonment, and then we went out in the field. And then we had, we had one of the first things that impressed me was we had field sanitation. And always in the infantry, you had a you had a camp near a stream. And so one of the first things I learned was that the first part of the stream was for drinking, the second part was for the animals, the next part was for the kitchens, then the laundry, and the last one was the laundry. So that was my introduction to field sanitation. Yeah.
Can you, I want a couple more questions on the, just Fort McClellan. The Tennessee and Arkansas maneuvers, could you just, you were part of both of those, right, in Tennessee and in Arkansas?
Yeah.
Could you just describe those in terms of, were they grueling or whatever you remember about?
They're very grueling. They're very grueling. Particularly, I was a clerk, and so that they said that well, there was a shortage of trucks to take us from Fort McClellan to the Tennessee maneuver area. So half of the regiments were trucked, and the other half walked.
Boy.
Half the distance, and then when the trucks come back, they shuttle us. And started out, I think I never saw so many blisters, not only in my own, but people were falling out with, I don't know, ill-fitting shoes, but we did a lot of walking. So then we got to Tennessee. That maneuver was sort of short, and what we would do is, you got to understand what this was the first concept of the Army had of generals of handling a large number of troops. You got to understand, in 1940, the regular Army had only a quarter of a million men, 250,000 men in the whole Army. So that when we were mobilized, they got it up to about 500,000, and then when the draftees come in, then they got it up. When we went to Arkansas and Louisiana, we were in larger strength. But the tactics of the thing was, we would march to an area, and pretty soon the next day or so, said, "Gosh, we were here before. We'd be coming back again." The tactics of the day were advance and retrograde movements. This is what the generals were planning, how to use masses of troops, you know. And nobody had any experience of 250,000 men across the country. I mean, the guy had 10,000 men in one place. He had a lot of soldiers. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, and it was hot, buggy, and Tennessee was good. Arkansas and Louisiana, that's the asshole of the country. Oh, there were swamps, snakes, and a lot more rain than we had in. And most of the time was maneuver. I mean, we didn't know any we might have had some small unit training, but most of it was moving from Hoosick to Hope, Arkansas, where our president comes from.
Hope, yeah.
Yeah, we were there. I didn't know it at the time.
Yeah. Okay, then following the maneuvers, you're back at Fort McClellan, and the understanding was that you would be discharged after the 1 year of service.
Yep.
And what happened at that time? You were not discharged at that time.
No. We had several of the original 23 men whose term of service expired. They were discharged, but our great white father Roosevelt declared an emergency, and they kept us in for an unspecified time. In other words, the Army was building up, but they weren't going to discharge all the people. In fact, the Ohio outfit, the Ohio National Guard, was the adjacent unit, and they were on a hill. And that's where you heard the term, over the hill in Ohio, over the hill in October. Because October was when we were supposed to, our year was supposed to be up.
Now, wait a second now. That's what I was going to ask you about the Ohio.
Over the hill in October.
Right. And who was you? The 27th was the one that was saying that, right?
No. Well.
Who was? That's what I'm trying to find out.
I don't know. I can't tell you whether it was. My impression was it was the Ohio unit.
The Ohio unit was doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's. I've been reading the newspapers accounts of that time, and. New York Times reporter says that it was the 27th Division that was.
Could have been. It could have been.
Yeah.
I have no recollection. No recollection. At the time, we agreed with it.
Yeah.
And who initiated, I don't know.
Okay, but then I guess what happened is that Oh, I was going to you see, some of the fellows from your detachment were discharged?
Yes, their term of service expired, yeah.
The 1 year?
Yeah, well, either that or, you know, they had signed up in June or July of 1940, you know, earlier. Mine was in September, see?
Oh, I see.
You know what I mean?
I see, yeah, okay. Then I understood that to take some of the pressure off, many men received furloughs for so many days. I'm not talking about the 20, I'm talking about the 105th now,
Mhm.
yeah.
Well, when we got back in August, I think, or September, from Arkansas and Louisiana, I don't remember, no, it was later than that again. Then there was going to be a period of 2 weeks or so rest, and then we were going to draw lots to see who was going to go home for Christmas. Half the people could go home at Christmas, half could go home at New Year's.
Mm-hmm.
So we were drawing lots for that.
Okay. And then, of course, we had
December 7th.
We had December 7th.
Yep.
And can you tell me sort of briefly what your role was? That is, the headquarters detachment role was. I know some of the units were called out to guard dams and factories
and stuff
bridges.
like that. Yeah, yeah.
What did headquarters detachment do? Okay.
Well, we joined. We provided communications. That's what the detachment did, so that we were attached to the headquarters company of the regiment,
Okay.
and they provided communications between the units in the field.
So you would have communication with headquarters, regimental,
Yeah.
and then the various line companies.
Yeah. Right. Yep.
A, B, C, and D.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And then, of course, you moved to California.
I want to.
If you got anything you want to add, throw it in there.
I don't want to sound prejudiced or
Well, go ahead.
or a little, but I never. You got to remember that my mentality at that time was, I'm here a year, and then I'm going home. You know. But the Southerners treated us shabbily. I mean, we had to wear the uniform. We went to town. Anniston.
Yeah.
They had a radio station. Mr. B was on the radio station, and he said, "Welcome to Anniston, the model city of Alabama." We thought it was a model. That was a model of the asshole of Alabama. Well, anyway, as an example, I went to town one Saturday to get some film. I went into a drugstore and a counter, clerk and people there. They looked down, looked down, looked down. After a while, they couldn't stand it any longer. I was about ready to leave, and all I wanted was a roll of film. What do you want? I got out and I said, boy, that's the last time you're going to see me. Well, anyway, why I bring that up? After the Arkansas-Louisiana maneuvers, but some of our guys got into girls' pants too in Alabama, you know.
Naturally.
Yeah, well, that happened, you know. But these bastards welcome. Oh, we're glad to see it. See, for the time we're in Alabama, in Tennessee, the time we're in Arkansas, they're starving to death. I mean, all the, the money that the soldiers spent wasn't there. You know,
yeah.
So they agree. Oh, welcome, bastards! You're glad to see us now, but 6 months ago you hated us. You know, and then that was even exemplified more when war broke out, and our guys. I say our guys. I was a clerk, so I stayed back in the rear area. I didn't go with our guys that went to garden bridges and dams and installations. So I stayed back in the area. And all these bastards, they love you.
Right. When that money was back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay then. So you went to California.
Okay. Fort Ord. Camp Hahn.
Camp Hahn.
Camp Hahn. Yep. Yep. That's where my first Christmas away from home.
Uh-huh.
Then from there.
How old were you at that time?
Mm-hmm.
How old were you at that time?
21.
21. Okay, then shortly thereafter you moved to Fort Ord, as I recall.
Yep.
Right. And then, is there anything of any significance you can remember about Fort Ord? Or?
Well, the biggest thing was that we were going overseas, POA.
You knew that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, we knew that just as soon as we left Alabama, that we were going overseas. We went to California, because that's where Pearl Harbor was.
Right.
And we started out in wooden railroad cars, wooden ones. We got to Texas, and they said, now we're going to get Pullmans. Now, we didn't get the officers got Pullmans. We got seats that had cushions on them, but they had wooden. You see them now in the out Wild West. You see some of those cars. They weren't all that way, but that's where they were getting equipment to move us, move the divisions to the West Coast. Anyway, we went from Camp Hahn to Fort Ord. Fort Ord was a former cavalry outfit. So we were parked in the area, and our motor pool at that time was right where the stables were. And they used to have, these things fascinated me. I'd never been around. I've been on a farm, but I never knew that they separated manure, and everything was orderly. The farms, I'm sure that you've been on a farm where the manure was out there, but it wasn't all decorated. So then we go from Fort Ord up to Washington, state of Washington. Where the hell did we go? Seattle, I think it was.
Is that where you shipped out to Hawaii?
Yeah. We got on to Aquitania, four-stacker. Aquitania is a sister ship to the Lusitania that was sunk in the Atlantic during World War I. But this is the thing about the Aquitania was it was tied up, and we over the gangplank in the side of the ship, coming through that window, and we were on G deck, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So we were 7 decks. So we got into that. You know what I mean? And the bunks were the unit that I was in at 6 high. The rust had not started to rust yet. I mean, that's how quick we got on board this ship. You know what I mean? There were cots that were swung on chains, steel posts, 6 up, 6 high. And the thing had not started to rust yet. So that's how recently that they had just commissioned it. So,
it took what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks to get over to Hawaii?
It didn't take 3 weeks, but it took more than 2.
And was there any, apart from the living conditions, was there anything of any great, something that you remember specifically about that trip?
Several things I remember very distinctly. One thing was the coffee was lousy. It was steamed. And I don't know, was it Bill O'Brien, Captain O'Brien, or Captain Veneer, Wally Veneer, B Company there, said that they were going to do something about that. And somebody always in the unit hoarded supplies, and so they broke out some of these supplies, so we had a little bit better coffee. But anyway, Lieutenant Huggins, the adjutant, our adjutant, come down and said, Wirmusky, the clerks are going to be up on C deck. I said, okay, that's where our CP is going to be. So he says, let's go over here to the elevator, and we'll go up. So we get to the elevator, and then Limey says, just a minute. Lieutenant Huggins, he could go. This is for first-class passengers only. So I said, the bastards, I said, we're fighting this. Well, at that time, maybe I'm a little bit premature, but saving the British ass.
Yeah.
And using their ships and well, anyway, so I said, okay. I mean, I didn't want to embarrass. Huggins was embarrassed.
For you, yeah.
I was a corporal, but this was for officers only.
Yeah.
I mean, not non-commissioned officers. But anyway, so I'm going up the stairway and come to the dining area, the officers' dining area. Tablecloths, menus, glass hardware, glassware and everything. you're getting madder by the minute. So when I got up to Huggins there, hope the hell I get off this goddamn ship. This is the way we're being treated. That's the way, I felt. Being treated. Incidentally, there's another, 2 reasons I wanted to become a corporal. One is that I would get off police in the morning. You had police, you know what police is?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Did you have any military experience?
Yes.
Yourself? Well, when I say,
yeah.
Okay, you know what short arm is?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, non-coms didn't have to participate in police in the morning, and neither did they have to peel it back every week short arm inspections. So
right.
That was the 2 reasons that I wanted to become a corporal. That was interesting. First sergeant said, "You could type for Muskie." Yeah, he said, "I think we'll make you a clerk." I said, "Well, I want to think about it." So I talked to my friend Johnny Corelli, and Johnny says, "Tell him if he makes you a corporal, you'll take the job." So I went back and told the first sergeant, I take the job. He made me a corporal. Oh, geez, he blew his stack. God damn it, Wirmusky, you're not in Hoosick clothes. He pointed his finger.
Is this Sluices?
Yeah, yep. He pointed his finger. He said, "You'll do what you're told. You're in the Army." And I tell you to. But anyway, that.
Yeah.
I became a corporal, and I was still drawing $21 a month. So for the first year, from October 15th to December 15th, 3 months, I drew 41, 11 and 11 and 33. Anyway, and then suddenly corporal got $54. So the next month I got $54 a month. I never was a private. I went from a recruit to a corporal. Yeah. But anyway, so we're going overseas, and your uncle and Captain, we're closer to Captain Veneer D Company, because that's who
right.
we messed with. They mounted their machine guns on the railings. And this was in the daytime, and then we had the nighttime drill. Like there were more bark shins going through the doorways, the hatchways, and doing that in the dark. It was tough. Yeah, but that was the type of training that we did on board ship. We got to Honolulu. We tied up, and we transshipped to the USS Republic to go to the island of Hawaii. Now we were on Honolulu, which is the island of Oahu. Transshipped on the Republic. And we were very fortunate that the Republic was a German ship, German transport, that the Americans captured during World War I and maintained it as a troop carrier. And it was the, I don't know, at that time, 25th anniversary of the capture of the ship, So they had a celebration. The Navy people had a celebration. And we participated, and of course, we got American food then.
Yeah.
So we got to
the Big Island.
Big Island. I'm trying to think of the name of the city, and we were transported from the city in taxi cabs out to Pahoa, where we were put up in schools, in former schools.
Taxi cabs.
Hilo is the name of the city that we landed at.
Oh, yeah, so you went from Hilo to this,
Pahoa.
and then you were put up in abandoned schools.
Yeah, not abandoned. There were schools that they displaced the kids out of the school.
Oh, I see.
And then we immediately started beach guard duties. Every morning, half hour before daylight, we'd be marched to the seacoast in anticipation of a Japanese landing.
Barbed wire, that kind of stuff?
Well, we did, that was the engineer function. All we did was deploy the sand dunes and squat.
Yeah. Okay.
So then, come July,
This is 42 now.
Yep. I left the unit and went back to the States. So that's essentially my history of The length of time I was with the 27th.
So July of 42, you left the detachment, came back to the States.
Yep. Fort Knox, Kentucky. 21 of us came back. And we had 22 when we left Hawaii. We got to the States. One of the men either got lost or skipped, and so we traveled cross country in a Pullman. We had a 21. We had the whole Pullman car to ourselves, and it was put on freights and put on passenger cars, you know, as we come across. And we had meal tickets, and we ate at the Fred Harvey places along the way.
The name is familiar to me, but I can't place Fred Harvey.
Well, no, I know what you're thinking of. It's not Fred Harvey, but the Harvey girls were the girls that won the West. They were high standard, high moral women that this restaurant chain staffed all the railroad stations.
Oh, I see.
And I can remember, gosh, it was just like going home. It was like going home to your mother. We got to the railroad station, and she was probably 30 years old, maybe. Looked old, you know, 35 years old. I said, "What are you going to have?" I said, "Well, we got coupons, you know, and we can only have so much." "Don't worry about that, son. What do you want?" I said, "What do you want?" "Bacon and eggs, ham, anything you want. Just forget about that ticket."
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was a hell of an impression, you know, after even coming back on the transport from Hawaii to San Francisco. It was now we're in American ships, and the food was American, but a lot of it was dehydrated and stuff like that.
What? So after you got back to the States, what happened?
I went to Fort Knox.
OCS?
OCS. Yeah.
Okay. You say there were a number of other guys from the 105?
They were, the 22 of us were from the 27th Division. And I'm not sure, but I think I was the only one from the 1st Battalion. Now, I don't know whether they're, you know, the other, you'd be surprised how clannish people were, you know. I mean, you go in the 1st Battalion, you didn't talk to anybody from the 2nd Battalion.
Yeah. Okay, so and then just briefly, what after that you were commissioned, and then where did you serve after that?
Well, I went from there to I had an opportunity to two things. Well, first of all, I was qualified to go to OCS, and I watched a lot of people go, but they went to the infantry, and I did not want to. I didn't feel that I was qualified or had the intestinal fortitude to lead 20 men in battle. My thinking was, I don't want to be in the army. I don't want to stay here. You know, other people were gung ho, so I actually fought the thing. Well, I could fight it kind of nicely because I was first to get the correspondence, and when the draft came, it was actually a levy on the 105th Infantry, the 27th Division. They had to supply 20-some men. And Mutt Donnelly, the Sergeant Major, went down the list, and of the people that qualify had an AGC test of 85 or more. And he says, Wirmusky, he says, don't you have any 85 or more there? I said, yeah. Why didn't you submit them? I said, well, it's me, and I don't want to go. And he again gave me the same, horseshoe deal. You're going to go. Yeah. So that's how I went. But it wasn't in the infantry, it was the armored force.
Armored force?
Yeah.
A lot of guys, I've heard the story, a lot of guys that went to OCS and went to the infantry, went to Europe, many of whom got killed.
Yes. Yep.
Any of the guys in your detachment? Oh, so you're the only one that went to OCS that you recall?
No. Fleming went, Ford went, Slavis went.
On the Ford, Fleming, Ford, Slavis?
Slavis, S-L-A-V-I-S.
Yeah.
Fleming, Slavis. These people all went before I did.
Before you did. Okay, that's all. I meant my question was not proper. Do you know what happened to them generally? Fleming, Ford, Slavis?
Fleming's still alive. Ford is dead. Ford had his foot blown off. He became the mayor after here in Hoosick Falls. Slavis, he retired, come home. Since died.
And Fleming is still alive? Does he live here in this area?
He lives in Florida. His family, his brothers and sisters live in Hoosick Falls. He lives up at Babcock Lake. I've never seen him. I haven't seen him, and I can't remember when.
Okay. So then, did you go to Europe or after?
No. When that again, you had a choice when you got out through OCS. 4th Armored was stationed, was staging in Fort Drum, New York. One other armored was stationed in Tennessee. And the 13th Armored Division was being formed brand new in California. So I thought, I still didn't know enough about the Army, and I was stuck. I knew I had to stay there, so I said I might just as well go to a new unit. So instead of Fort Drum would have given me time to come home.
Oh, yeah.
And so I went to California.
Okay. And then did you serve in Europe?
No, Pacific. I went back to Hawaii.
Oh, okay.
And 2 years later, I went back to Hawaii, and I met Sluices at Huggins on Okinawa. We made the April 1st landing on Okinawa, and they landed after we did. And that's where Sluices got killed.
Yeah, Sluices got killed, I remember that. So you were part of the landing on Okinawa, but then you were part of the 13th Armored Division.
No.
I'm losing you.
No, I'm not giving you the exact scenario. The 13th Armored, we were qualified in training to prepare for overseas. In the Pacific, they changed the concept of the armored makeup of the armored divisions. They were fighting regiments. They said regiments were too big. We're going to take out X number of regiments and fight battalions. So I was in a unit that was separated from the 13th Armored, and I became an amphibian tanker, 780th Amphibian Tank, and we trained as the alligators that the Marines had successfully used in the Pacific. So that was another phase of training that I went through. And then we made the landing in 44, October 44 at Leyte, and then April 1st in Okinawa. And then a little island off Okinawa, Subanjima, we made that landing there. And then in August, we had completed our refitting, and we were going back to the Philippines to draw new equipment for the invasion of Japan. And one night, they said, well, they dropped the atom bomb. I said, what the hell is that? It was just like Pearl Harbor. Where the hell is Pearl Harbor?
Yeah.
We didn't know where Pearl Harbor was, or didn't know whether it was a girl or what the hell it was. But they said they dropped the atomic bomb on Japan, and so the next day they said they dropped the bomb on Hiroshima or wherever the hell it was. And so then, very shortly after that, they decided Japan surrendered, or sued for surrender. And after that, they did it occupation troops, and amphibian tanks and armored units were not suitable for occupation.
Yeah.
And by that time, I had enough points, so I was in the second draw for coming home.
So, okay. Just trying to see, got a little more on this tape. Could you look at this list of just quickly and these guys and run down and tell, if you could, I have got a sort of a list of them here, and I know some of them. I know Sluices was killed, and I know about Butkus. Whatever happened to Hatfield? You know, is there?
Yeah, no, we didn't have a Hatfield. We had a.
Oh, okay.
We didn't. No, I can tell you who was killed. We had Herm Barnhart was killed.
Yeah.
Bud McGarvin was killed.
Whoops, Bud McGarvin. Okay, I don't have him. Okay, I'll put this here.
McGarvin, Sluices, and oh Christ, the other guys. See, I wasn't with the unit then. Well, let me look here. This kid Noack, he was killed in an automobile accident before he left the unit and was killed. Oh, Zelinskas, Barney Zelinskas.
Yeah, I heard. You say Bud McGarvin. Which one was there? There are two McGarvins I have. There's one is JF. No, wait a second. I got a JJ McGarvin. Is that Bud McGarvin?
I want to see what the hell is listed as here. J.J. McGarvin. Jim, his name was. Yeah, we called him Bud. Jim.
Bud, and he was killed. Huh?
Yep.
You know, this Herman Barnhart, there was a woman named June Hoyt. Is that?
Yeah. She's writing a book too, a love story about this.
Well, yeah. I know. I found that out, and I've spoken with her, as a matter of fact, and she told me about the situation, and she, I don't think she's going to continue with the book, but she, in the connection with that, she had interviewed John, what's his name? R.L. Johnson.
Ronald L. Johnson.
Ronald L. Johnson.
Yeah.
And she has kindly been sending me to tapes. He passed away.
Yeah, just
recently.
Year.
Yeah, and
I used to visit him in Hawaii.
Anyway, she passed. I don't guess we don't need any more of this unless you got some other. I was just going to say that she is transcribing the interview she had with him, and of course my recollection is that he went on to be my uncle's communications sergeant.
Could be.
Yeah, on Saipan.
Could be.
Yeah. So his recollections, of the Battle of Saipan are just invaluable because he was right with him at all times. Anyway, is there anything else you want to add in here? I think we pretty well covered it, unless you've got something that.
Well, most of what I've covered is personal.
Yeah, well, that's okay.
You're more interested in the unit and what the unit did, and that's.